If you've watched our introduction video, you'll know that ArtistClerk is our new web-based business software for artists. Here's how it works. You can use whichever web browser you prefer. For this demo, I'm using Chrome. I visited the login page, I've entered my account ID and password, and I click Sign In. The first thing you'll see are some reminders about how to complete common tasks. So if you haven't logged in for a while, you can get back up to speed quickly. For example, if you've just made new business contact, it tells you to add them on the Contacts page. Each time you visit ArtistClerk, you'll want to do at least one of these two things. The first one, enter information about what you've been up to lately in your art practice. And the second one, run a report based on information you've already entered. For example, let's say you've just sold an artwork. For that, we go to the Artworks page. We can click on the image of the artwork that we've just sold to see all the information that you can track in ArtistClerk. There's a lot of information that you can track. But you do not need to fill in all of it. Only a title is required, everything else is optional. So you can choose exactly what information you want to track. We'll scroll down to the section where we record sales. If the buyer is already in my contacts list, I can just choose them here. So let's say Sinclair Danforth. And let's say I sold it a few days ago on Friday, and that I sold it at the Davis Bay Hall. And the selling price goes in. In my case, I'm not required to collect taxes, but you might be, so there's boxes for that. And we'll say no commission paid here and no shipping costs. We can also type in the payment we've received from the buyer and the date we received it. That may have been on Friday. And we can say that it was a check and it was deposited to my checking account. Then I just scroll down to the bottom and save the changes. When you create a new artwork, you can use the Add button at the top of the page to enter the information. When I was entering the information for the artwork I sold, did you notice the drop-down where I selected the name of the buyer? The information that's displayed in that drop-down comes from the contact page. Here you can track different types of contacts. It might be a client who's buying your work, an event contact for a show that you're in, a location contact for a gallery that you display work in, or a patron who supports you otherwise in your art practice. You can also track notes on these contacts. These notes can be as long as you need them to be, and you can add to them over time. On the Artworks page, there was also a drop-down of locations to choose from. The information that shows up in that drop-down is entered on the Locations page. Locations can be physical or virtual. A physical location is like a gallery or a gift shop or a farmer's market. A virtual location would be an online location like Etsy, Saatchi Online, or Society6. The reason ArtistClerk lets you track virtual locations is so that you can evaluate how well your work sells from each location. Here's an example of a physical location, Davis Bay Hall. It has a street address. And here's an example of a virtual location, my Etsy page, where I've given the website URL for that page. Over time, your work may be shown at different events, which might be at different locations or all held at the same location, perhaps your local gallery. The Events page lets you track which events you participated in, which works you showed at each event, and what you priced each work at for the event. To know how much you're making from your art practice, you'll need to track your expenses as well as your sales. That's done in the Expenses page. So far, I've just entered 2 expenses. Let's add another one using the Add button at the top. Let's say the expense date was yesterday, and that I spent $100. And in my part of the world, there are 2 taxes to pay. One would be $5 and the other would be $7. And the total expense would be $112. Let's say I'm buying canvases, so art supplies. And I buy them from my favorite shop. And then I might say here that I've purchased 4 24 by 24 deep canvases. And then I add the expense. And now we can see that it's shown up here, the date and the amount. ArtistClerk can generate lots of different reports for you at the click of a button. This is where the real power of a software tool like this comes into play. This is done on the Reports page. We've organized the various reports under headings: who, what, when, where, and how much, how many. Let's run a few reports so you can see how easy it is. Say you want to know who's purchased the most artworks from you. So that's under who has purchased the largest number of works of art from me. And we can see in my case, that's Isla Jones, who's purchased 4, followed by Dina, who's purchased 3, and onwards down the line. We might also want to see who spent the most money on my artworks. In this case, Isla Jones has spent the most money, but she's now followed by Sinclair Danforth, who spent $400. So although he didn't purchase that many paintings, he has spent more money purchasing one large one. We can also generate reports showing which media, style, or series of our work sells best. And those are here. If we look at what media are selling best, well, all my work is oil on canvas, so that's the one that's selling best. You can also check which location my work sells best at. Where do I sell the most pieces? At Jill King's house in 2014, an event there, followed by from my studio and Davis Bay Hall. And you can see how much money your art practice is making under the How Much, How Many section. At the bottom of the menu, you'll see there's a settings page. Right now, it just lets you change your personal information and your password. But we have great plans for this area. We'll cover that in a future video. If ArtistClerk sounds like the tool you've been waiting for, watch our next video for a special invitation.